Charged Up, Episode 16. You are a badass at making money with Jen Sincero.
Are you ready to get charged up about your money, your credit, and your overall financial health? You've come to the right place. You're listening to Charged Up with Jenny Hoff.
Welcome to Charged Up. I'm your host, Jenny Hoff, and a managing editor at CreditCards.com, where we have a plethora of information on how to get out of debt, better your credit, and manage your money. Today, I'm thrilled to have #1 New York Times bestselling author and success coach Jen Sincero as a guest. You may have heard of her breakthrough book, You Are a Badass, which tackles the psychological blocks we have to truly living our greatest potential. Her newest book, You Are a Badass at Making Money, zeroes in on our potential to live a more financially fulfilled life. Not too long ago, Jen herself was living in a garage apartment eating dollar tacos and wondering how she would ever climb out of debt and onto solid financial ground. Well, she figured out how to do just that, and she's now sharing her strategies with the world. If you're feeling stuck financially, overwhelmed with business ideas you just don't know how to put into action, in a rut, accepting what you make now is the most you'll ever make, or even filled with positivity but lacking a clear-cut strategy, then Jen is here to help. Let's get charged up about becoming a badass at making money. Jen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So I love in your book how you document your own journey from living in a garage apartment and eating dollar tacos to making 7 figures. And while luck may play a partial role, there was a lot of risk involved. And you really talk about risk in your book a lot. Can you start off, though, telling us how you went from, I wish I had enough experience to do this dream job, or I wish I could afford my friend's house, to having the guts to actually make it happen?
I think I just really got so sick of my situation of feeling like I knew I could be doing better, but I just wasn't, constantly freaking out about money. And I finally just made the decision. It really was the decision to get my act together, to focus on making money, and to do whatever it took.
And so what did you start off doing? You started your own company. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey, how you went from what were you doing before to what did you start as your company, and how did that really catapult your career?
Sure. I was a writer, so I had a couple books published, but wasn't making mad money on any of them. And I was also freelance writing, and it was really, I spent most of my time scrambling for work that really didn't pay very much. And I was exhausted all the time and working my butt off, and still broke as a joke. So I first realized that I had to change some things up, change the way I was doing things. And sort of a long story, but basically the first really big leap I made was in hiring a coach who specialized in helping women get their finances together and get their careers together. She really helped me look at what I had under my belt, which was a lot of writing experience, and helped me set up an online business coaching writers to write and sell their book proposals. But the big risk with that for me, there were a couple. First one was hiring her, was taking a financial risk and putting the cost for her services on a credit card, which freaked me out because I hated being in debt. I was already in huge debt. But if I had waited until I made the money, I would still be living in the garage. So the first one was a huge financial debt. And the second one was taking a risk that I knew what the hell I was doing. I'd never run an online business before. I'd never coached writers before, even though I'd been a professional writer for 20 years. It was owning my skills and being visible and saying I knew what I was doing was also terrifying.
I love that, because a lot of times I think we put our self-worth at where our salary is. So when we're not making a lot of money, we tell ourselves we don't have a lot of skills. We don't really deserve a lot of money. Clearly, no one's going to pay us a lot of money to do something. And yet you went from really just struggling to get by, paycheck to paycheck, to believing in yourself and putting this huge investment. In your book, you talk about how much you spent on this life coach or this career coach, but you also really stress that while debt isn't always horrible, if you plan to really make a change with it, you need to have the right mindset. And it needs to be a bit of your last resort, that you've really tapped out every other option. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think debt is such the big bad wolf in our culture, and I by no means recommend anybody going into debt. It definitely isn't optimal. However, as I said, if I waited until I had all the money, if I don't, what was I making? I don't know, 25, 30 grand a year. There's no way that I could have afforded that coach. So I recommend going into debt when you've got the right mindset. And my mindset was, I am officially unavailable to be in financial struggle anymore. I am going to focus on making money, learn everything about making money, and take all the risks I need to take in order to do that. So my mindset was super solid around this debt is very temporary. This debt has a purpose that is leading me towards getting out of debt. It wasn't like I went and bought $7,000 worth of shoes, It was really focused.
So it's like burning the bridges a little bit. You said, okay, I'm not going back. There's no route back.
Yes.
So why did you choose, as a follow-up to your best-selling book, You Are a Badass, to write about being a badass with money? Why did you feel like that was an important second topic to approach?
Because if there's one thing I can talk about is not having money and also the mindset that are the biggest stumbling blocks that are keeping you from making money. I was living in the converted garage in my 40s. I spent a lifetime subscribing to all of these limiting beliefs and, the stumbling blocks. I feel like it was such the natural second book for me to write, to really help people hone in on what's holding them back and to help them figure out how to release that and move forward to making the money they desire to make.
So you saw the value that you had. It didn't have to be like formal training in financial advice. It was, you saw that you had this experience and this knowledge that you could share with other people because you knew they were probably going through something similar.
Sure, totally. I mean, it was partially my personal journey, and it was the whole reason I got into self-help in the first place was really my issues around money. But I'm also a life coach and a success coach, and I have been for over 10 years. So the book has a lot of my personal experience as well as all the stuff I've been, and most of my clients come for money issues. So yeah, I've been working with a lot of people on that as well.
Okay, so what you really see are money issues. That's interesting because it's something that people think, oh, it's probably relationship or whatever, but a lot is driven by your financial situation. So I want to get into the book a little bit. I've interviewed a lot of people who say it's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you save, which of course has validity. Overspending can get even very extremely wealthy people into debt. But you make a point about how we sometimes spend so much time trying to save a dime here and there that we miss opportunities to actually just make more money, more than we'll ever save clipping coupons. Can you go into that a little bit?
What you focus on, you create more of. So if you are constantly focusing on money you don't have and how you can cut back, your mindset is all about not enough, right? So when you take that scary leap and stretch yourself, it really is about shifting your mindset. When you take that leap and make the decision that you're unavailable to be scrappy anymore, and you're like, all right, so this is the reality. This is my monthly nut. I think it's very important to be in reality about the money you need each month. Instead of looking how you can cut back, look to how you can expand. We call it taking a stand for the and. Like, I need this money to live, and I want to go on a vacation, and I need a new car. So instead of closing down and shutting yourself off from making money, open yourself up to it and be like, I believe in an abundant universe. I believe I am a powerful person. I'm going to make this money. Other people have done it before me, and I'm going to do it too.
There's a great example in the book of a man who was making about $20,000 a year, not because he wasn't capable of making more, but that he just really never expected he could. He grew up poor. He had a deadbeat dad. It had become an identity he was comfortable with until he wasn't anymore. He figured out what skills he needed to make a lot more money, and I think within a year he was making six figures. So what was the important change in his story to go from living paycheck to paycheck to feeling wealthy?
Exactly what you just said. It was an identity he was comfortable with. And we don't realize how powerful that is and how that is really ruling so much of how we live our lives. When you decide to change who you are, lots of things change, and especially your relationships with the people around you and just your relationship to your own identity. You're basically killing off your old self. When you go from broke to rich, you really are. I mean, you're still the same person, but you're killing off your old identity, and that freaks people out. So we don't even realize that we're letting that stop us. And this man, once he realized how attached he was to this old identity, how he was accepted by his friends, he wasn't doing better than his parents, so they didn't have to feel bad about themselves. He wasn't going to be judged for thinking he was better than other people. That's the stuff that was holding him back, and that's the stuff he faced head on in order to make that big leap.
So if somebody were to come to your coaching business and they're essentially in that situation, they're saying, okay, I make X amount of money. It's okay. I'm able to pay my bills on time. I'm not able to do much else. And I am a little bit scared that if I were to lose my job, I would find myself in trouble quickly. What would your first steps be with them to get them on the track to thinking about more, to being creative about how they could make more, to actually making more?
First, we'd look at their belief systems around money and their beliefs about what's available to them and all the stuff we just talked about, and then rewrite a new story for that. and then look to opportunities that are already there that they cannot see because they're so attached to those beliefs. So for me, as an example, when I started making my big transformation, for the longest time, I didn't believe I could afford a life coach or a financial coach because, it was so much more money than I had at the time. So I immediately blocked that out. And just, was like, next. But when you open your mind up and stretch it and be like, I am available to take big, scary risks. The money is there for me. I'm going to do whatever it takes. All the opportunities that are already standing right in front of you, but just happen to be way outside your comfort zone, they become possibilities as opposed to impossibilities. So that's where we look first, is at what is around you that you've been pretending is impossible, but you're just really scared of.
One of the examples you give, I'm going to give a metaphor for it, where it's a lot of people imagine money as a pie and you get your slice of the pie. And if you want more of it, you're taking it from somebody else. But that's not really how it is. It's an expanding thing. It's an abundant thing. You making more money doesn't mean that somebody's going to make less because of that. You say that there's a lot of guilt around money. There's a lot of shaming people who have money and talking badly. It's okay to talk badly about people who have money. Talk about that, where we get into this mentality where suddenly you become the target if you actually have money.
Yeah, we've really built up this image of rich people as not noble, as doing horrible things. Money comes first and other people in the environment, who cares? In order to get rich, you have to compromise your values. You can't do things that you enjoy. You're stealing from other people. We've really done a number on ourselves. And if that's really what you believe, you're not going to let yourself make money, because who wants to be a bad person? And the thing is, a lot of these beliefs are very subconscious. Our culture is masterful at these insidious beliefs, and our parents, just through little things they say that their parents told them, pass it down to us. And we walk around believing that if we do become rich, we will be a bad person who's exhausted and never has fun, or whatever else our other beliefs are. So this society has created this. We tend to focus on the rich people who are doing bad, evil things. Meanwhile, there are countless wealthy people who do wonderful things with their money.
Right. And you even talk about in the book, if you do want to do wonderful things for people, money is a good place to start, because that is what gives you the ability to help other people. Let's talk a little bit about conviction. There's a chapter in the book where you really talk about having to be dedicated to a decision that you make and stick with it and see it through, rather than trying to do a million things at once and hoping one will turn out successful. Talk about kind of, now I'm in this mindset where I want to make money. I believe I can make money. Money is not a bad thing, and I know it's out there, to making that decision on how I'm going to make that money.
Right. One of the biggest problems that people have is when you decide to make the money, you're rolling up your sleeves, you're all excited, you open yourself up to ideas, and most people are pretty creative, which is a lovely thing. But if you try and do a million things at once, you will not do any of them well. You'll fragment your focus and your time and your energy. And especially if you're trying to get a new business off the ground or go for a very specific job, you need all of your energy focused on that one thing, because what happens is, if you have a bunch of plan Bs waiting in the next room, the second it gets hard or expensive or scary, you're going to talk yourself out of it and be like, actually, this isn't what I want to do. I'm going to go do this other thing. So the focus is critical, because once you've burned the bridges, you're going to make it happen no matter what. And that is the leap. That really is the leap that takes you from your current reality to the next reality, is going for it on that level.
Right. Like in your situation, you had put up a ton of money on this career coach and you weren't going to let that go to waste. You wanted to make that money back many times over. Let's talk about our underlying beliefs. We've touched on it already, but how they really affect our ability to make money. And you mentioned in your book thoughts, beliefs, and language, and how they all affect us in ways that we probably don't even imagine, and we don't think that they really do. But we use them every day in our lives, and it affects kind of how our actions are afterwards. Can you talk about that?
The subconscious beliefs that are running our lives, those are the sneakiest ones, because those are the ones we don't really even realize we have, right? So most people are like, sure, I'd love to make tons of money. That would be awesome. But deep down, if you really truly believe that rich people are evil and that you'll be judged for making money, then you'll do a lot of things. You'll keep trying to make money in a lot of ways, but your heart is not in it. And so you'll keep holding yourself back unbeknownst to your own self. So it's a really, really powerful thing. And our words and our thought completely reinforce these beliefs. And if you're broke and you start paying attention to your language around money, it is such an eye-opener. I know for myself, that blew my tiny mind. I have an exercise where I have you write a letter to money as if it was a human being. The push-pull in most of those letters is fascinating. I've had all my clients do it too, where it's like, I love you, I wish I had more of you, but you make me feel icky and I'm embarrassed to admit I like you, I don't trust you. So once you really realize what's going on, it's not so surprising to you anymore why you don't have much money.
Right. So why is that it really affects us so much, how we think and how we talk about money?
Well, think about if you told a kid that they were stupid their whole lives. We believe what we hear, and it literally creates ruts, subconscious ruts. So, kids whose parents told them they were stupid their whole lives, they really believe they're stupid no matter what evidence they have otherwise. It's this deep-seated belief. It's like muscle memory for us. And a lot of this muscle memory happens when we're kids. We take on a lot of subconscious beliefs as children before our analytical brains are fully formed. And we end up running our lives on these beliefs that sort of got trapped in our subconscious before we were able to wake up and be like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I'm really smart. Look what I just did. It's like, a dog. If a dog gets attacked by little dogs when they're, you get a dog from a shelter who's been attacked, they're freaked out. You have to train them. We cling to these quote unquote realities of the way life is and operate from those until we become aware of them and then challenge them.
And you mentioned, like you just said, a lot of our beliefs stem from childhood. And in the book, you even talk about that, how we hear about money, or our parents fighting about money, or people fighting about money. Suddenly money becomes something that's unsettling inside of us and a topic that you almost don't want to confront or think about or talk about because it brings up a lot of bad memories. So what exercises do you use with your clients to get out of that mindset? Because it's one thing to say, okay, I need to snap out of it. That's not the reality. And there's another thing to actually getting there. It's like quitting smoking, right? You can say, I want to quit smoking for 20 years, but what will push you over the line to get to that new mindset to be able to see money as a possibility and something you need?
Specifics, getting really specific about why you want it in the first place. Most people know they want more money and they just are very vague about it. When you become very specific about what it's for, that's when you get emotional around it, because money on itself doesn't mean anything. $1 million sounds great, but whatever. But if there's a charity that has a huge meaning to you and thinking about how wonderful it would be to give them a couple $100,000 or to send your kid to a great school that you're really excited about, or to take yourself on a vacation that you've always wanted to go on, that's specific and that's emotional, and that's what will propel you to make the changes you need to make, and really focusing on that. That's why vision boards are all the rage, and affirmations, and just constantly repeating these specific things and having a very clear idea of what the money is for is one of the best things you can do.
Okay, so be specific. Know what it is that you want. Even visualize it if you can on a vision board or write it down, but know what it is you want, how much you're going to need for that so you can start working towards that goal. Be single-minded when you do start a way to make money, and don't distract yourself with a million other things. You also talk about that people have this belief that in order to make a lot more money, I need to be able to put a lot more hours into my job or take a more grueling job. But that's not necessarily the truth. As you point out, that were true, rich people wouldn't be on their yachts all the time. So talk, a little bit about where we have to get to be more efficient rather than just working longer hours.
It's very hard to get rich doing everything yourself. And so I'm not saying that you don't have to work your butt off when you start a new business or make this big change. Sometimes you do. But I'll tell you from experience, I work way less now and make a hell of a lot more than I ever did when I was working my tail off in the old days. It isn't about making money, it's about working hard, which is something most of us have been raised to believe. It's about being smart and leveraging your time, delegating, and that's a huge, scary thing that so many people don't want to do because they don't want to spend the money and they don't want to give up the control. So that's another great example of getting outside of your comfort zone and taking risk and learning from mentors. And it all boils down to making it okay to focus on making money, because a lot of people talk about how much they love their jobs or they're starting a business because it's important to them. And that's so good. And that's such a huge part of the puzzle. But you have to be okay with being like, and I'm going to get rich doing it. And this is how I'm going to get rich. Because money is such a taboo topic and we have so much weirdness around it, we won't a lot of times let ourselves focus on the kind of money we desire to make. And then because of that, don't put the pieces in place to make the money because we think there's something wrong with doing that.
Yeah, exactly. You also talk about faith in the book, and you have to have faith in your ability to make money, and that will influence your actions. However, how should faith work? I'm assuming it's about using it to help you seek out opportunities or create your own, not rack up credit card debt on the belief that you'll soon have enough to pay it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, faith really comes into play when you take those huge, scary risks. For example, I didn't know that I was going to be a great writing coach. I just had to have faith that when I put the pedal to the metal and I got clients signed up and there I was being the expert, even though I had never done it before, I had faith that I would figure it out and that I would rise to the occasion. When you go in for a job interview that may be a little bit above, out of your reach or that's scary and out of your comfort zone, you have to have faith that you're going to knock it out of the park, even if you've never done that job before. So faith is the thing that allows you to take the risk and to leap into the unknown, the critical risk and leap into the unknown that you must take if you're going to change your reality.
Right. So a lot of it is really about getting your mind to the place where it needs to be. And it's true. I've experienced it myself, but you can say a lot of times women earn less than men. And part of the reason is that they don't negotiate as well, or they're afraid to ask for money, or they want it to be told, I'll give you this much more money instead of demanding it. And so I guess a lot of that also has to do, obviously, with the mindset that you have, whether you deserve it or not.
With our deeply misogynist society, yes, absolutely. It's a reality. We are not valued the way men are in our culture. And we take it on, whether or not we believe it in our conscious minds. It's very insipid. And that's why I'm so excited about this new book, just to really help untangle us from that and be like, hell yes, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, you got to go in and you got to ask for it. No one's going to offer you more money than you're willing to take. So you also talk about how you have to surround yourself with people who are supporting your goals. And this is important, I think, because we all want to be part of our social circle and nobody wants to be the target or the outcast or have people talking behind their back. And yet, when you do try to rise above your circumstances, which means rising above the circumstances of those in your social circle, you can easily become now a target. So how do you know who you can trust? What should you be looking out for? And what should you be doing while you're trying to succeed and while you're trying to pinpoint who's going to really be supporting you versus kind of holding you back or putting you down for it?
Look to people who are excited for you as opposed to worried for you, right? You've got plenty of your own worry. You don't need them. Just like, oh my God, starting your own restaurant is so risky. It's risky. Somebody who's going to hook you up with a vendor or do a cartwheel every time you talk about your new restaurant. You have got to be so protective of your energy when you're starting to take these big leaps because your fear, doubt, and worry is going to be all over you and you do not need somebody else's. One of the most common things that people write in and that my clients talk about is when your spouse or your family members are not supportive of you changing. And this is the most common thing. They're the ones who have the most to lose if you change, right? They like you the way you are. And so they're really, quote unquote, worried about you, which they are, but they're also worried about what they're going to lose. And also you're showing them what's possible for them. And they may not be so psyched about that. They may be clinging to their comfort zone and comfortable in their fear. And so when you blast out and do the impossible, it challenges them. So it can be very challenging when the people around you who you love aren't supportive. And I always recommend, it doesn't mean you have to end the relationship. Sometimes you do, but it does mean that it's not wise to share all your hopes and dreams and ideas with them. If people have proven to you that they're not going to be supportive, those are not the people you should talk to about your stuff. Find other people who are moving forward, who are taking big risks themselves, who are where you want to be, and share your hopes and dreams with them.
That's great. And in the book, you talk about the different scenarios of increasing your income, either as an entrepreneur, which we've talked about a lot, starting your own business or taking a big risk, but also as an employee of a company or somebody who's unemployed and needs to get a job. So what would your top tip be for each one of those situations, an entrepreneur, an employee, and an unemployed person for making more money?
As an entrepreneur, look at the areas of your existing business that are making the most money right now. Where are you being the most effective? Is it in sales? Is it in doing the actual work? Are you selling products? Is there a certain product that's really raking it in? Be very clear on where the most money is coming in and capitalize on that and figure out how you can really up your game in that area and or leverage your time. That's the other big one for entrepreneurs is how can you turn one-on-one stuff into group stuff or make live stuff into a product. Leveraging that is crucial for entrepreneurs. If you are at a company and you want to increase your income, I'm a big believer in looking around and seeing what else in that company needs taken care of that's not being taken care of. I love this idea because you're not waiting around for somebody to be like, we think you're great, here's some more money. It's showing them that not only do you have great ideas, but you're committed to them increasing their income, you're committed to the company, you're a self-starter, you think outside the box. So I love the idea of people going out and seeing what the company needs, offering to do the work, and naming their price. If you're looking for a job, as far as the money goes, I think it's really important to figure out exactly how much money you need, especially if you're just starting out, if you're just getting out of college or you're honing your skills, to be available for stepping stones. So many times in my life, I took jobs that weren't the be-all, end-all of what I wanted, but they taught me so much, and they got me around the people I needed to be around in order to make the kind of money and have the kind of life I wanted. So I think it's about being really available to opportunities that may not, you're sort of like, what is this opportunity? To be available and open to everything, because you never know where it's going to lead. And to have a very clear idea of where you want to be and where you're headed, but to be playful with it and not too rigid, because the most amazing gifts come in strange-looking packages sometimes.
All right, fantastic. And also, what would you say are the 3 most important things mentally we should all be doing right now to get on the path of making more money?
First one is to become aware of your beliefs, thoughts, and words around money, to really listen to yourself speak and think. Second thing is to challenge anything that's negative in that department, really question it and be like, is it true I can't make money? Have I ever made money? Is it possible that somebody like me could be rich? Really challenge them and rewrite it. And the third thing is to scare the crap out of yourself on a regular basis. Instead of being like, there's nothing I can do about it, the economy sucks, to be on the lookout for the idea or the opportunity that scares the hell out of you, that's in the direction of your dreams, and jump on it immediately before you have time for your rationalizations and excuses to come in and knock you off track.
Wonderful. And finally, our podcast is called Charged Up. What gets you charged up about getting people to recognize their own potential and act on it?
The world will be a much better place when everybody is in love with their lives and excited and feels powerful. That's when you're not so self-focused. That's when you can be more altruistic and share the love and sort of lend an outstretched arm to help other people up.
Jen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This was really great.
And thank you for joining me for this episode of Charged Up. I'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes and subscribe so you're alerted as soon as a new episode is up. If you have questions you want me to answer on air, please send an email to chargedup@CreditCards.com. To read the full transcript for each episode and access even more great financial information, head on over to CreditCards.com. Until next time, get charged up about your financial future.